I started for school very late and I was in a great dread of scolding, especially because M. Hamel has said that he would question us on participles. And I don't know a word about them. The last lesson. Let's start the first lesson, that's last lesson. The lesson is set in the days of Franco-Prussian War, in which France was defeated by Prussia. In this chapter, the districts of Alsace and Lorraine have gone into Prussian hands. What effect this had on life at school? Let's see. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and the Prussian soldiers were drilling in the field at the back of the sawmill. It was much more attracting than the rule of participles. But I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all the bad news came from there: the lost battles, the draft, the order of commanding officers, and I thought to myself without stopping, what could be the matter now? Then, as I hurried by, as fast I could go, Watcher, the blacksmith, his apparitions called me. Don't go fast, pup. You will get to your school in time. I thought he was making fun of me. I reached M. Hamel's garden all out of breath. Usually when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard in the street. The opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated very loud, and the teacher rule rapping on the table. But now it was so still. I had depended on the noise to get to my desk without being seen. But that day everything was so quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their place and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can understand how ashamed and how frightened it was. But when I entered the class, nothing happened. M. Hamel saw me. Go to your place quickly, Franz. We are beginning without you. I sat on a bench. When I had got a little control over my fright, I noticed that he had on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little silk cap that he never wore except on inspection on prize days. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and serious. But the thing that surprised me the most was that on the back benches that were always empty, the villager people were sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hauser with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others sat on the back benches. Everybody looked sad. Hauser had brought an old primer, a book for learner which was thumbed at the edges, held it open to his knees with his great spectacles lying on the pages. While Franz was wondering about it all, M. Hamel moved his chair gently, said, "My children, this is the last lesson. I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the school of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive. What a thunderclap those words were to me. Oh, the wretched. That was what they had put at the town hall. Watchers are unhappy people. Her watcher is referring to the informer of this news at the town hall. My last lesson? Why, I hardly knew how to write. I could never learn any more. I would stop here then. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for looking at birds, eggs, or going sliding on the sand. My books that had been seemed trouble a while ago, so heavy to carry. My grammar and my history of the sense were old friends now that I could not give up. And M. Hamel too, the idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Cranky means strange. Poor man, it was in the honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes, and now I understood why the old man of village was sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school. It was their way of thanking a master for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was no more there. Franz, it's your turn to recite. I tried so hard to say that terrible rule of participles all through, loud and clear, but I got mixed up on the first words and stood there holding on to the text, my heart beating and not daring to look up. I will not scold you, little Franz. You must feel bad enough. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, I have plenty of time. I will learn it tomorrow. And now see where we have come out. Oh, that's the great trouble with Alsace. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Now, those people out there will say to you, how is it you pretend to be Frenchman and yet you can neither speak or write your own language? But you are not the worst, poor little Franz. You have a lot more things to damn yourself. Your parents were not ambitious enough to have you learn. They preferred to put you work on a farm or at the mills so as have a little more money. And I have been to blame also. I have not often sent you to water my flower instead of learning your lessons. And when I wanted to go fishing, did not I give you a holiday? Then, from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we have must guard it among us. Forget it, because when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if key of their prison. Then he opened a grammar and read us a lesson. It was amazed to see how well I understood. All he said seemed easy, so easy. I think too that I have never listened so carefully and that he had never explained everything with so much patience. It seemed as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. After the grammar, they had a lesson in writing. That day, M. Hamel had new copies for them, written in a beautiful round hand. It was written France, Alsace, France. Alsace, they looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom. You should have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was the scratching of the pens over the paper. Once some petals flew in, but nobody paid attention to them, not even the littlest children. On the roof, the pigeon, and I thought to myself, will they make them sign in German? Even the pigeons? They is referred to German people. Whenever I looked up, I saw M. Hamel sitting still and gazing one thing then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind how everything looked in that schoolroom. For 40 years, he had been there in the same place with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him, just like before. Only the desks and benches had been worn smooth. The walnut tree in the garden were tall, and the vine that he had planted himself climbed about the windows to the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all, poor man, to hear his sister moving about in the room, over packing their trunks, as they must leave the country next day. But he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing, they had a lesson in history, and then the babies chanted their ba bee boo. At the back of the room, Hauser had put on his spectacles and his primer in both hands, the latter with them. You could see that he too, and his voice trembled with emotion, and it was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Oh, how well I remembered it, the last lesson. At the church clock struck 12. Then started Angles prayer. At the same moment, the trumpets of the Prussian returning from the drill sounded under the windows. M. Hamel stood up very pale. I never saw him look so tall. He looked tall because he was confident. My friends, something choked him. He could not go on. Then he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and bearing on with all his power, he wrote as large as he could, "Vive France." Then, without a word, he made a gesture to all with his hand, as if he saying, "School is dismissed, you may go."